Hello ladies, welcome to Homemakers Radio. I hope you get a lot done while you listen today. Please leave a comment over on my blog if you'd like to watch this there. And before you go about your business, I'd like to show you my teacup that kind of goes with the blue of this dress. This is one of the dresses that I have made from the fabric from Hobby Lobby by a company called Brother Sister Designs. They have the most delightful fabric. It's 100% cotton. It's very high quality. And the cup was given to me by one of my relatives. It's really one of my favorite. It's hard to find a blue teacup, especially this color, blue. And so I wanted to share that with you. You've seen this several times before. And today I'm going to talk about a number of things. But first of all, I want to talk about appearance. And the reason we start out with appearance is because it gives you a feeling of being a person and having a purpose. You know, I have a little grandchild, and he's about 2 and still wearing some of his onesies and little soft t-shirts and soft pants and everything, and so I had sent him a pair of jeans and a shirt that buttoned down. And he said, and so his mother put it on him, and he said, "I'm a person now." And so when he's getting dressed now, he says, "I want to wear the person clothes." And so wearing where do these kids come, get this stuff? And he's only 2. But dressing up and taking care of your person makes you feel like a person with a purpose. And it is also a silent influence. It's scary sometimes to talk to anyone or even to encourage them or even to influence them some way in your beliefs or just to help them. But your appearance is a message that's quite quiet and yet noticeable and can influence. Everybody's influenced by something. And people can tell something about you, about how you feel about life, about how you feel about order, about how you feel about God, and whether or not you are a thoughtful, kind person. Sometimes they can tell by the way you dress. Now, this world has got everybody's so confused about clothing that you just don't know what to wear anymore, but I found my home in sewing, and I look to clothing that I buy patterns that are current year and use pretty prints that have a nostalgic feeling to them. So this is a time that you can influence. It's a silent way to teach. Isn't that wonderful? So start the day with your appearance so that you can feel like a person with a purpose. And then I want to talk to you about housekeeping and homemaking. So if you have something you need to go do, you may listen while you go. I realize I have quite a backlight here, but this was the part of the house I had to choose because of the progress is not in the front yet. So today I'm going to read a little bit about perseverance, but I'm first going to talk about homemaking because that has a little bit to do with it. And that is, I was asked the question recently, well, how are you doing on all those rooms and all the beds that you had to clean up and remake, and the rooms that you had to redo after having company? And I had 19 people here, and quite a few of them stayed, and so I had 8 beds to refresh, sheets to wash and hang out on the line. And I had to say, I did not get it done. I've got most of the beds, the sheets all cleaned, but nothing is cleaned up in the rooms, nothing is made. But the reason for that is, and it's been 2 weeks now, but the reason for that is because my daily life has to come first. I have to have my prayer time, my tea time, my list time, my exercise time, and my, clean the kitchen is very important to me. Keeping the bathroom clean, doing the salads and the meals is very important to me too. Keep regular things that I do, like correspondence or anything else that I need to do. Those things have to be in balance. I have to make sure I do them every day, or I don't feel stable. So if I have time and stamina left, I'll work on one of the rooms. So it will take me quite a while. And then I wanted to remind myself that these people I was giving them a holiday. And so if I were running a bed and breakfast, I would have to do it anyway. So I was giving them a holiday in return for a lot of things that they helped me with and did for me. And hopefully I will get it cleaned up before everyone descends on me again. But I am not a bit worried about it. I want to read to you about, and housekeeping, it's very important to have a little routine that you do. I make sure the front room is always clean as much as I can, because I can always shut the doors on everything else, but that front room is the first one thing that people are going to see, and I make sure that the kitchen is clean. At least I try to, unless I'm not feeling well, and I make sure of it because it gives a feeling of being sanitary and safe. And now my whole house is feeling more and more like a great residence, even though it's just the manse and it's just a little cottage. I have a drink station, a refreshment station in 4 places in the house, one in the dining room, one in the living room, and one in the kitchen, and one in the guest room. And the reason that I like that so much, there's water in there, there are things to drink, there's the tea, and there are many other things, is because I don't have to go traipsing all the way to the other end of the house and squeeze into a tiny little area and get something that I can get nearby. So when I'm sewing, it's handy, and whatever room I'm in, I'm handy, and that's just the way I like it, and I'm doing it that way for a while. Doesn't mean it will stay that way, but many people are home now, and it's amazing the creative things they're doing in their house that they hadn't thought about before, because they are home and they're finding more to do, more to improve it, more to improve the way that it feels to them, the way that it works for them and serves them. And so people at home don't need to think about getting it done, because there's plenty of time, and so we take our time. Things look a little bit better when we do that. I'm going to read to you now about perseverance, because that probably would apply to the home. Now, this is from McGuffey's Fourth Eclectic Reader, written in 1837, and I believe this is the Christian School edition. And the Christian School edition is a little bit different, because they took out some of the myths and things that were in it that I had read that I didn't find much value in, but you can get the original. And this is called Perseverance. And there's a black and white picture here of a mother out with her 2 children trying to fly a kite. And I won't read the whole story to you, but I will tell you that they were trying to fly kites. The mother was trying to help them, and they failed several times and finally could get them up in the air, and at last, after trying several times, they succeeded, and what a joy it was. It's the same at home, isn't it? We don't quit doing something that's necessary just because we don't succeed the first time. So she said, I'll read you the last paragraph of this story. Dear children, I wish to teach you the value of perseverance, even when nothing more depends upon it than the flying of a kite. Whenever you fail in your attempts to do anything good, let your motto be, try again. And here's a poem that they put in here with it. That this poem has been very familiar for a long time. I still see it every now and then, and it's often used in meetings where they're trying to motivate people. It was read to us by our mother, and because she had an old poetry book, and many times people have quoted this to someone who's been discouraged. It's called Try, Try Again. 'Tis a lesson you should heed, try, try again. If at first you don't succeed, try, try again. Then your courage should appear, for if you will persevere, you will conquer, never fear, try, try again. Once or twice, though you should fail, try, try again. If you would at least prevail, try, try again. If we strive, 'tis no disgrace, though we do not win the race. What should you do in the case? Try, try again. If you would find your task is hard, try, try again. Time will bring you your reward, try, try again. All that other folks can do, why, with patience, should not you? Only keep this rule in view, try, try again. This is a very important motivating thing. If you look at the Bible and you see the Apostle Paul, or any of the prophets of the Old Testament, often would get discouraged and would whine and complain. And the thing that God did was tell them to get up and go into such a city. He gave them something to do, and that's the secret to feeling lack of success, and is to try again. And even if you don't succeed, and I've noticed this in my own life, even if I don't succeed, I was trying, and I learned something along the way, and it was very good for me, and it was very good for my mind. So sometimes people won't do anything unless they know they're going to succeed. Well, you might do something like painting a picture and realize it's not your thing. It was a little harder than you thought it would, but at least you tried and you know. But you can't know unless you try. So I'd like to also encourage you to find a place of quiet rest, a place where you can sit and breathe and pray and read or listen to a singing. And I will include that song, There is a Place of Quiet Rest. It's, if you remember the words, it's a very old song. There is a place of quiet rest near to the heart of God. And I'm going to talk a little bit right now about gratefulness, because I showed you a little book that I had last time, which you could use for your refinement lessons, to record your refinement lessons. But if you could make a book maybe half that size, maybe about this, the one that I showed you was probably this big, but if you could make a book about this size, you only have to have a few pages in it, and make it into a gratefulness book, and every day find one ordinary small thing to be grateful for and take note of it, or use your book as a little painting journal and draw a picture of it. These little books, these little commonplace books, are one day going to be found by someone in your lineage. And I think also there's such a great thing to feed your mind with something by writing it down. And I'd also like to talk about people. Now, we have a problem with difficult people, and that is whether it's somebody that's just not on board with what you're doing as a homemaker, or just just has the habit of being disgruntled and contradictory. Actually, I would rather deal with someone who's just an old grouch than a difficult person who just contradicts everything, because no matter what you do, they contradict it, and they seem to not know what to say unless someone has already said something. Then they grab a hold of that and contradict it. And I recently heard a lady talking about how happy she was to go to tea at someone's house, because she could actually sit down and have a conversation and have a cup of tea. And she says, I'm so busy at my house that sometimes I want a cup of tea and I'll pour it, I'll take a few sips, and then I'll keep working, or I'll keep moving around. And so another woman there just had to say that she never would do that, and went on and on and on about how if she did that, her tea would be cold when she came back to it, so she always sat down. And I don't know if these people, actually, I found out some people really don't know that it's rude, that they think they're making conversation, and the only thing they know how to do is grasp onto what someone else has already said and make a contradictory remark. They think that's interesting. And if you'll listen carefully, these people really don't have an original thought or original idea. They thrive on telling somebody else why they can't do what they were talking about, or why what they said is not a good idea, or what's wrong with something that they just said. You'll find these people have I've seen this in families too, where someone wants to do something and someone else will say, I don't want you to do that, and they never said anything before the person decided to do it. They never said, I don't want you to do this. If you ever think about doing it, don't do it. But this kind of contradiction, very bad way to raise up children. They'll be very conflicted when they grow up, and they'll have a hard time with people. So there are three things you could count it down to: that there are difficult people who just are mean. They just have grown up in meanness. They've seen it. It's been bred into them, and they just naturally are mean. Or they have been corrected and defied it, or they weren't watched too carefully and no one caught it. The other thing is jealousy. A nice person often will make a mean person trigger a mean person who wants to make them mean just like them. So they have to do something or say something to show their jealousy, and you don't pick up on it. If you're a nice person, you probably never, ever pick up on somebody being jealous of you, ever. Because you're not jealous and you just really don't think about it that much. Everybody has been given blessings by God and has their own unique ways and their own unique wealth. And we just don't focus on it here. I don't know about other places, but jealousy, the Bible talks about how sinful jealousy is and how it is so destructive. And of course, we don't always know that. Like, we can be very puzzled about the way people will talk to us and think, what in the world are they talking about? They seem mad at me about something, but they won't say what it is. Well, a lot of times people won't actually tell you what they're trying to start an argument over. They just want to accuse you of something. And it's over something they don't want to admit. And it could be jealousy, and it could be that they don't think you should be home, be a homemaker. Or if you're homeschooling, they don't think you should be homeschooling. So they're just going to accuse you of being lazy or something like that. And you can figure out, what in the world are they talking about? And so the other thing, so they might have meanness, jealousy, and then the third thing is that we don't want to admit, we don't want to. If you get a difficult person that is constantly arguing and troublesome and accusing and blaming and just going into just making life difficult, not being pleasant, never underestimate the possibility that they could be drinking. Because what drinking will do, and a lot of people don't notice it, is that at first it seems to, you don't notice it and it seems to relax a person. Maybe you don't even know that they've been drinking, but it changes their personality eventually. I don't know how many of you have ever been to some kind of a gathering that wasn't a church gathering and noticed, maybe people were drinking but you weren't, and then you noticed a change in their personality, and they change their loyalties, and the meanness comes out when they feel that they have no restraint, and that's what drinking does for them. So the other thing that I would like to talk about is the person is, if any of you have never ever had someone list all your faults and give them to you, and they started out with they call you a liar, then they would call you selfish, then they would call you, oh, they love this one, they like to call you manipulative. Then they like to call you lazy. Then they like to say that you spend too much money. Then they like to say that you don't finish anything you start. Or then they like to say that you don't have any friends and nobody likes you. It sounds like a 7 or 8-year-old in school. And they just continue with this. And what it is, I have discovered, sadly, is that whatever someone is continually accusing and blaming someone of, is they have not taken the log out of their own eye, and they are doing the same thing. And so you need to remind them that Christ said, take the log out of your own eye before you attempt to take the speck out of somebody else's eye. And so when we were growing up, of course, our parents really were careful to teach us that you don't accuse anybody of anything. Don't accuse them of being liars. We were never, even if they were liars, we were told, keep your mouth shut. Don't accuse anybody. Don't say so-and-so is a liar. Because today we have people saying, well, it's the truth. Why shouldn't, I'm just being truthful. And they think if you don't say it, that somehow you are being dishonest. But if you want peace in your life and you don't want to be hypocritical, you don't call people liars, you don't say they're manipulative, you don't say that they are lazy, you don't say that they have stolen something. You just don't. You just let their conscience be their guide, and you don't try to be the conscience for someone else. And I was told that very early in my life as a preacher's wife. You just had to be so careful, because if you say anything about anybody, you pretty soon find the fault in your own life, and that can destroy you. That can bring you down. And so it's also important to know that these type of people who have nothing, it's like I said about the previous person, the person that contradicts all the time, they have nothing original to say. So all they do is talk about something that they are guilty of, and and just they're not very original, and they need to learn to build one another up. That's what the Bible says. We're supposed to build one another up. And so I remember one time listening to an elderly woman who was getting a little bit rankled by someone who was constantly contradicting, arguing, and accusing and blaming. And finally the woman said, you know, you need to keep your eyes on Christ and not on me. And you need to not worry about it so much. It's not good for you to worry about it. I can see it's affecting your health. You know, how long has it been since you have read a good book? Or how long has it been since you have baked a cake or something like that? And she just, but she was so confident in herself. The only reason I think it bothers people when other people are like that is we really do take it to heart. We really do think, uh-oh, that person has found something wrong with me. And there's always a little element of truth in everything, you know, in everything that they say about you. So you just kind of suffer terribly from the guilt. Then you're tempted to try to make it right with them, and they've got you because they like to have you in that beholden, groveling position, always apologizing. And the matter of fact is they're never called to prove any of these accusations and any of these contradictions. Contradicting is probably the most rankling thing that goes on in a conversation, and even the most expert people still haven't figured out how to prevent it, except to keep the other person extremely busy. Some people like to ask the contradicting person questions, keep that person busy talking on, droning on about their own interests, and that might help, and it does help. But and a lot of people feel that they have to be around these people because it's loyalty or it's what God wants them to do. But if it is affecting your health, if you're finding that it takes 2 days to get rid of the taint of this constant contradicting and the arguing that you hear, then it might not be a good idea to be around these people. But if for some reason you have to be around these people, I just love the modern era and some of the devices that we have. You can take your little phone with you, and you can look up something on Pinterest and just kind of keep it down there with your book or whatever it is you're doing, and look at some things on Pinterest and not pay much attention to what other people are saying. Another thing that I've noticed in a group, let's say 3, is that one person somehow is disturbed by there being 2 people there. I don't know what that is about that type of personality, but they will start out by being rude to one of the people in the group. Well, it might be 4, but being rude to one of the people in the group, cutting them off, cutting them down, so that person starts to be self-silent. Then the other person goes down, and then they can work on the one that they're trying to influence or the one that they're trying to persuade to do something, or persuade of a belief. And I've noticed that they have to eliminate anyone in a room. Another thing that people do that is very interesting is they'll be getting along with somebody just fine, and someone else will enter the picture or enter the room, and the one person will try to get those 2 to be at odds, to get those 2 to fight. I don't know what that's called, but I've seen that done. And the way they'll do it is the person that enters the room becomes the new favorite, and so the other person who's been getting along just fine talking to the person they were sitting next to suddenly figures out how to turn one against the other and get them on their side. So he'll or she'll say, well, I don't really believe it. I believe the way you believe. Or I don't think people should do something knowing full well the person that was sitting next to them at the time just discussed it with you. And we'll try to get 2 people at odds with one another, or get one of them won over to her side or his side and the other one feeling alienated. That is a very strange way to act. If you see your children acting like that, put a stop to it at once. And remember, the Bible says to build one another up. That's easy. That's easy. And the fruit of the spirits in Galatians 5:20, is it 22, 23, is love, joy, patience, goodness, kindness, a whole bunch of other stuff. And then it warns against, I will read a little bit of Galatians 2. It says, let us not become conceited, provoking one another or envying one another. A lot of these difficult people, difficult personalities comes from that, from being conceited, provoking other people, and envying other people. That seems to be the root of it. We don't know for sure what makes some people tick, but some people just don't know any better. And there are some people too, very young, that just now getting into their adult life and want to have adult conversations and just really are practicing and don't really know how to do it and can't do it with ease. They make a lot of mistakes, but maybe not deliberately. However, it becomes worse as you grow older, and there's nothing worse than an older woman who constantly argues, constantly contradicts, constantly corrects everything. And I remember listening to with a great amusement to a person who was being corrected all the time, and she was just trying to have a good time with the other ladies, and she was drinking tea with them. And so this other woman was just correcting. She just was correcting everything. She had targeted her, correcting everything she was saying, contradicting everything. And the woman said to her, "Is there anything I could say that you would like? Is there anything I could say that you would agree with, or that, would please you?" And that other woman was just silent. Sometimes they just don't know that they are doing it. But I think the most important thing is not to let it slay you. If you let something slay you, what you're doing is you're giving them power and you're saying, oh, they must be right. But it's possible they're not right. It's possible they aren't completely right, that they have an agenda behind what they say. They might say some little thing that is kind of true, like, you were lazy today. Well, maybe you were a little bit. And it'll aggravate you to death, but you have to realize they have something else behind it. And the agenda behind it is to demoralize you so much that you can't function, that you have to forget your goals, that you can't grow, that you can't become more talented. And I mentioned that movie with Ingrid Bergman and Charles Boyer called Gaslight, which showed some of these personalities perfectly on how they, one could dominate another and make them feel as though they were so inferior that they didn't really deserve to be alive, deserve to be breathing. And so we have to have confidence and realize that God brought us here for a purpose and that He loves us, and not let other people diminish that for us. So ladies, this hasn't been very long, and I hope you did get a few things done. I know you like me to speak a little bit longer, but I dropped my notes, and I think that was probably all I was going to say. And so when you want to live a more valiant, positive, hopeful life, then what you have to do to these naysayers and these people is ask them what they have done to make life better for anybody. Ask them what are their plans for the future to make life pleasant for themselves. Ask them questions and reverse it. And just another thing you can do is just keep doing what you do. There was a story once of a woman who was trying to, I don't know if she was trying to clean up an old homestead or something, and there were some ruffians there that were just, tearing it apart as she was doing it, but she just persevered and she just kept doing it. And when they got tired of all the rabble rousing, they'd disappear, and then she would finish the job that she was doing in the first place. And sometimes it's best to remain silent around these people because they really want to stir someone else up so it can give them some material to argue with, because that's how they live. They live on arguing. And if you've got children that do that, you need to sit down with them and gently talk to them about the danger of always arguing. And they'll find out as they grow up and get more responsibilities and maybe get a job that this isn't even acceptable, even in the work area. It's called creating a hostile environment. You can't do that. So, ladies, I hope that you get something done and that you are energized by all of this, and also that you'll make a list of things that you would like to do, not just the things that you have to do, but how about some creative things? How about some goals? How about some things that you've always wanted to do? And how about things that would make home living absolutely glorious and impress you, your own house, to make your own house impress you? And how about learning some things? And some people, they're not able to go anywhere right now, but they can somehow, there are people that will thrive in this kind of thing in some way and overcome it. And remember what the Bible says, we are more than overcomers. That's what the Bible says. I read that to you last time. So ladies, I hope you have a good time. I'm honored that you came to see me, and thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.